All right, welcome to this 67-day lesson here. We're talking about financial freedom, money, wealth creation, financial independence, all that good stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of ways a conversation and a program can go on this subject because it's so big. You know, like I say, most of the world, almost all of the world is a financial quote-unquote slave. You know, slavery has been eradicated in most countries, but a new form of slavery has come, which is, you know, financial slavery. And whether that be through debt, credit cards, you know, student loans that you might own, but there's other kinds that are maybe more insidious. You know, I read that statistic recently that said people on average person in the world spends 88% of their day, their life, doing something that they don't want to do, that they have no interest, no passion, so on. And so that's a form, if you think about what, you know, slavery is. I just read that book, Roots. I reread it. That won a Pulitzer Prize by Alex Haley, which was on slavery, you know, in the 1700s. And again, you know, obviously there's different forms of slavery, some worse than others, but make no mistake, if people throughout the world feel like they spend the majority of their life, 80+%, doing stuff that given a choice they wouldn't be doing, they're not financially free. It's just that simple. So what's the most important tenet to know? And I step back and I'll tell you what one of my mentors, Alan Nation, said. He said, before you change anything, you have to understand why it currently is like it is. And that sounds simple, that sounds obvious. It's not obvious. Think about it. Whenever you talk to somebody who has a radical belief, whether it's religious, political, a diet that they're a fanatic about, the reason they got to, and let's assume that they're on the wrong track, okay? Well, the reason they got to the wrong track is because they never honestly diagnosed why it is like it is. Imagine you go into a doctor's office, okay? And imagine you meet a doctor like this and you say, I'm not feeling good. The first thing the doctor does is say, great, heart surgery. That's what we're going to do. Come on in the room. That doctor will be insane because he doesn't even know why you don't feel good. What if you don't feel good because you broke your hand or something? So that's what people do when it comes to money. They just start mass diagnosing. Oh, the reason I'm broke is because of the banking system or the gold or the rich are getting richer and holding me back. Or people have a million theories. If you don't believe me, go out and start asking people about money. You're going to hear everything from, you know, sound logical ideas to just crazy stuff. Illuminati is running the world and you can't, or that you have to be born. I get it all the time on Instagram. People or social Facebook, people comment and say, well, Ty, you know, I don't have any money because it takes money to make money. Well, that's true, but one of the rules of logic is, can you find an exception to the case? And if so, then it's not an irrefutable law. So, for example, is it true that the diagnosis why you might not have financial freedom, why I didn't have financial freedom, is it you have to be born with money? I don't think that's true. There's lots of people. One of my best friends, his dad came to America with $20. And he's worth now, it's funny, he's worth about $20 million. Okay, so clearly there's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And in fact, the Forbes list of wealthiest people in the world right now said, this is the first year, I think, or in the last couple of years, where there's more people who earned their money from scratch than inherited their money. See, it used to be hundreds of years ago that the only wealthy people in the world were monarchs and kings and sons and daughters of kings and queens and so on. But those days have been gone for quite a while. So that's not a good diagnosis of what the problem is. So the way I want to kind of start this program is just by going, we got to diagnose the real reason. And I'm going to tell you why I think the real reason I was broke and the real reason you maybe are broke now or have been in the past. Because this is my rule of life. You can write this down, and this applies really to anything. So it's called the don't understand, won't have corollary or principle. Anything you don't understand, you probably won't have. Very few people are naturals at anything in life. There's a few exceptions to this. There's some people, for example, who know nothing about nutrition, nothing about exercise, and happen to have great genes and pretty good bodies. But they never have exceptional bodies. If you go to a fitness competition or a bodybuilding competition or a pro athlete, with pro athletes, 100% of them have above average understanding of the human body and nutrition and exercise. Even the dumbest of someone you would think, quote unquote, is dumb. I've been around pro athletes. They're smart about their specific thing. They know how to stretch. They know how to lift weights. All that. You can't get to the high levels of life. And for you, financially, as you're trying to go up this pyramid that we talked about, you're trying to rise up, anything you don't understand, the odds of you having it are like 1%. So there's a 1% exception, but that's not a good way to bank your life. So going back to this diagnosis that I want to fix here over these 67 days in this financial freedom, money, wealth, independence program is that you got to know what money is, okay? And I think some people will say, well, Ty, that's too basic. It's not too basic. Anything you don't understand, you probably won't have. You see that with people here in Hollywood trying to make it. People at the top, they know stuff. Billionaires, multimillionaires, they all know stuff. I call it the stumping principle. Stumping is you stump somebody when you ask them a question and they can't answer. Well, if you've been through the 67-day mentor program, the 67-step mentor kind of foundational program, that's not just about money. You remember one of those principles that I talked about is rich friends and poor friends. And I have poor friends and I have rich friends. And I'll tell you what, when I ask my poor friends questions about anything, bring it up. What does amortization mean? What does, first in, first out, FIFO, accounting mean, accrual? They won't know any of it. But every rich friend or financially free person that I know has a solid understanding of all of the foundational areas.